Alright guys, so to start out, we'll start with our bobbin that we looked at here earlier. And the first thing we have to do is thread the bobbin. So you can take whatever thread you're wanting to use for your fly, and then they make a threader that you can actually go down through the top and then pull the thread back through. You can actually make those out of monofilament fishing line, basically make a loop and put some masking tape at the end. But another way that you can do this if you don't have one is take the end of your thread and you'll put it in the bottom opening of your bobbin, and then you can just thread it through that way. So to start out, the first fly that we're going to tie here is called a blue-winged olive nymph, or a baetis. It's a type of mayfly nymph. So I'm going to take a hook that looks like this. Hopefully you guys can see that. And this is a nymph style hook, pretty small, but we'll go ahead and put that in our vise. So you go ahead and lift that up, and you want the hook point to face down towards the ground, and then we can tighten that into the vise. So actually I skipped a step here. We're going to take the hook back out of the vise. I'm actually going to take this little tiny bead, this brass bead, and we will thread it onto the hook here. And then we'll put it in the vise and we should be ready to go. So now that we have the hook in the vise, I've got you guys zoomed in so you can take a closer look at this. You're going to take your offhand and hold the tag end of the thread coming out of your bobbin. And with the hand holding your bobbin, you're going to make some clockwise turns. And you basically want to overlay the thread onto itself. And if you take the tag end and hold it up at like a 45-degree angle here, when you lay the thread on top, you'll get really nice spacing on your thread. So you can run it down the shank of the hook and then back up towards the bead, and then we can take our scissors and trim that little piece off. The next step, what we're going to do here, I didn't show you guys this earlier when I was pulling out those trays, but something else that's kind of handy is this clear stretch cord. And I actually found this at Walmart in the crafts section. And they actually make different size diameter stretch cord that you can buy. So we're going to use this. I'm going to trim off a piece of the stretch cord here. And what we will do, we're going to lay this along the side of the hook shank. And then with your thread, we will lock the stretch cord onto the hook here. And sometimes what you have to do is kind of loosen up the thread to get it to cinch down. And then after you have that locked in, you can pull on the stretch cord and kind of thin it out as you're running it down the hook shank. And we'll stop it a little bit past where the barb of the hook is. So after we get to this point, then you get to be all artistic and such. I have a bunch of different Sharpie markers, different colors, and for this one, the blue-winged olives, or the baetis, they're kind of that olive color. So I'm going to take my Sharpie here and color this stretch cord so that it will match the color of the nymph. So you can take your marker and just run it up and down the elastic cord here. Make sure you cover the entire thing, or anything that's going to be on the hook itself. And then we'll wind it up the shank of the hook. So after you get to this point, I guess one thing I forgot, you're going to run your thread back up towards the bead, that way it's out of your way. And then we'll take this stretch cord and you'll pull on it so that you can get it seated towards the back here. And sometimes it's kind of a booger to get it to stick where you want it to. But after you get that locked in place, you can run that up the shank of the hook and leave a little bit of room up by where the thorax would be, so we can put some dubbing on there. I'm actually going to leave it right there. So then you'll take your bobbin, and you'll have to keep tension on the stretch cord with one hand, but then you're going to take the thread and go behind it a couple of times, and that'll lock that stretch cord in place. And then you can run it on the front side a couple times up towards the bead. And then we can take our scissors, kind of pull on the cord there, and trim that off. And if there's any spot on the stretch cord that lost some of the ink as you were going, you can just touch it up with the marker. And then the next step will make it look really nice. It'll kind of pop out when it's under the water. So this is something else I didn't show you earlier on, but you can buy specific head cement for tying flies, but I just go to Walmart and you can buy, this one's called Salon Perfect nail lacquer. So don't be afraid, guys, to go into the makeup aisle and buy yourself some nail polish, because this is a cheap, effective way to either lock in your thread at the end up towards the bead, or highlight some of the stretch cord on some of these nymphs. So you just want a little bit, and kind of tack it up on the top, along the sides. And if it's too bulky, if you think you have too much on there, you can take this deal right here and kind of thin out the spots where you think you need it. Actually, I think we're pretty good there. And then you can let that dry, and then we'll finish out the dubbing up towards the bead. And then we'll wet finish it. It should be done. So now that that lacquer has had a chance to dry, so the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to take some of that dubbing and finish out up towards the bead head here. This is a synthetic style dubbing. There might be some natural hair mixed in as well, but they do make like rabbit hair dubbing as well. So what we'll do is we'll take just a little pinch of this dubbing, and you're going to kind of spread it out on your thread, and then just take your fingers and twist it onto your thread. And sometimes you kind of have to play with it a little bit to make it lock in, but after you get that dub noodle stretched out, you'll take it and finish the thorax up by the bead. And right there it looks like I probably have enough, so if you put a little bit too much on there, don't worry, you can just peel some of that back, pull it off of your thread, and it won't hurt at all. So you can finish it out like that, up towards your bead. And then the last thing that we have to do to finish this out, going back to this tool right here, the whip finisher. So the way that this works is you have a hook right here, and then it bends down, and then you can see this piece down by the handle. So the first thing that you'll do is you'll take the hook and put that onto your thread, and then you're going to wrap the thread around the bend down by the handle, and you're going to make a triangle. And after you've done that, you'll take your whip finishing tool and you're going to rotate just behind the base of the bead towards your dubbing 5 times. And after you've done that, you'll tilt it back towards the handle and release it from that hook, and then you're going to pull on the thread coming out of your bobbin up towards the bead, and then you can release the hook out of there. Just pull that thread down, kind of cinch it into place. Then you can take your scissors, trim that off, and we are good to go. There's our blue-winged olive nymph, the Baetis nymph, and kind of excited to try this out next time I get up to Northeast Iowa and do some fly fishing.